Hello and welcome to Health the Second Opinion. Dr. Chad here, excited yet another week of now bringing some health and truth and principle to the world and hopefully into your home so that you can incorporate it into your life. And thinking about those health principles and what we're trying to help people get is survivability. So many people are in a mode of survival and thinking about whether that's their health or their finances or just the general tone of the world. I just wanted to speak to some of the things that really I hope folks can grasp onto, which is that which you think about, you bring about. And so, what are you thinking about? That which you think about, you bring about. And so, is your thoughts or are your thoughts about just surviving, or are they about thriving? Are they walking and talking and thinking all the things that we go through in life? Are you on purpose and taking things in a principled manner to get what you want, or just avoid what you don't want? And I know, a good example of this thought process that we kind of all make our decisions based on one of two things, to either seek pleasure or avoid pain. If we really just root it down to the principle or the lowest level there, basic understanding, survival, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, security, and then avoid pleasure or gain pleasure or avoid pain. And I was thankful to get to take my sons on a mountain biking trip last week, and we'll do it again this weekend. And we're going to go a certain route. And my son said, well, I just want to go the way that we don't have as many uphills on the way back. I said, great, we'll avoid some pain. And, I agree. Heading back to the car, the last thing you want to do is end on a drudgerous climb and get back without any fun, So, of course, we took the route that allowed us to have a fun downhill on the way home. And so morale was better when we got back to the car. And so, but that's just an example of how we, again, our mindsets can shift and determine literally the entire perspective of the way not only we view our day or our bike ride or our whatever, but our lives. And as a parent, I've become more aware that time is flying by, and I'm watching my daughter get close to her 1-year birthday, and I'm thinking, oh, 1 year, really? But if we want to step back and again look to the future for what we want, then we must say, and this is a quote from Albert Einstein, there are two ways to go through life. The first is as if everything is a miracle, and the second is as if nothing is a miracle. So, what are you thinking? Which is it for you? Which is it that you're living? Teaching to your children, to your church. Is it fear-based? Survival-based, which is usually fear? Or is it the miracle? I'm blessed to be a part of a group called Max Living. Well, I guess I should point to this. And every Tuesday and Thursday, I get to be a part of coaching calls. And they're online. And I get to listen in to people's experiences of living in the miracle. And it becomes one of the things I forget. It becomes so mechanistic to me and so indoctrinated into me that I forget that a lot of people outside of my bubble are completely void of that type of information coming in. And so they're left with the mass media dumping into them on a regular basis, and no one pouring in love and expectation of the miracle. And so that's one of the reasons I like to put this show out every week, is in hopes of creating a drip into the pool constantly to provide people with the reality that your body is far more capable of healing than you've been led to believe. Far more capable than you have ever been told. And the principles that govern whether or not our bodies have life are the same for all of us. And they're more important as we age, I guess, to adhere to those principles, because through the accumulation of time, so too is the accumulation of those miles and the wear and tear and the possibility for more things to go wrong, and the more trauma, thoughts, traumas, and toxins, right? The 3 T's that affect us all. And if we're going to improve our survivability in the world of thoughts, traumas, and toxins, the things that can cause our bodies to subluxate or degenerate or to not express life as well as it did when we were in our growing young years and headed towards maturity, then it's about maximizing the positives and minimizing the negatives to allow the environment of our bodies to flourish. It's like a garden. Are you weeding? Are you fertilizing? Are you tilling? Are you aerating? Are you, what are you doing to your soil? And our soil literally is the matter in which our spirit resides. Let me give you someone just texted me a question, so I'm going to put this up and then check that for a second. Awesome. Great. All right. So thanks, Sue. I'll touch base on that. So you can text your questions to my cell phone, or if you're on Facebook, you can make comments, and I'll try to respond as we go along. So getting back to that Albert Einstein quote, we all think of him as just a scientist, but equals mc squared and all these things. But his thought, that statement of you can live life in 2 ways, as though everything is a miracle or as though nothing is a miracle. And one of the things I want to comment on is that in my office, one of the greatest things that we do, and in every Max Living office, it's not just my office, this is every Max Living office. Well, I would think at least 90+%, that the expectation is that the miracle will happen because of the alignment of people in support of their bodies and in support of that environment that promotes healing, which nowadays we think of people recovering and healing and surviving cancer or surviving heart disease or surviving COVID or surviving these things as a miracle. But in fact, it should be the normal result. And we should expect it. And, it's one of those things that I'll touch base on and go back and forth with and hopefully land this properly, that, so many people expect that if someone has COVID, that their, likelihood of dying is very imminent, maybe 50% or something like that. But the reality is that like 98% of people, somewhere between 95 to 99, depending upon the country, survive. And so that's an expectation that should elicit hope and not as much fear, because it then changes the conversation to adaptability and survivability and what you can do to increase your odds, and then changing your habits to do so. It was a lot of fun. I'm glad to be back in connection with side of my family that disappeared for a year here during this time. And it's fun because, you know, one of the things they recognized was that I'd lost a lot of weight and gotten back in shape and or even better shape, and that things were positive, lots of good things were happening. And my thought was, well, yeah, I mean, there's pandemic going on, a lot of extra stress. So I figured it was time to take my health to the next level to increase my adaptability and survivability. So, you know, yeah, lost 20 pounds and I'm exercising more and we're eating better and we're doing all of these things that made sure that I was up to the challenge. And then I'm coaching and doing more with my patients to help them be up to the challenge, because we understand that there's more stress. Anytime there's more stress, the tendency is for the mindset to hunker down and use comfort things and habits that just deal with the short term. But if we're looking at adaptability and survivability, then we must look at the long term and understand that one of the greatest things that's an exploitation, this is from CNBC and via to me by a very funny Bill Maher rant, 7 minutes. You can look it up, Bill Maher. Don't spin me. And, you know, but be aware it's PG-13, it's Bill Maher, for goodness sakes. But it was funny, and it was some great information about the fact that from CNBC that approximately 78% of people who were either hospitalized, died, or were ventilated, whether they died or survived, of those people from COVID, that approximately 78% were obese. So that then led me to look at the stats, and it's on the other side of this computer, which is just right here. If I spin this, it's just right here. And I was looking at things because there was the volcano eruption in the Bahamas the other day, and a lot of people were really upset, and the world's on fire for the fact that the only people who were allowed access to being allowed on cruise ships that were sent to take people to neighboring islands to bring them to safety were people who were vaccinated. Whether or not you would prefer that the majority of people have a vaccine, or you like it or don't like it, I think everybody deserves the right to live. And when the survivability is somewhere in the 90+ percentile, then that's a lot less imminent than a volcano eruption. Just saying. Just a thought, Mr. Fox, as I read my kids' children's books to them. If you have young kids now, you might have read that one. And so it's called My Lucky Day, by the way. And so when we look at these things, that volcano eruption was imminent. The pandemic is still going on and very real, and people are dying. But let's get back to those stats that 78% of people who died or ventilated or hospitalized for COVID were obese. And talk about the reality of what that means. And the fact is that worldwide today, in the last 2 years, since if we look back the beginning of this, Italy or Wuhan or what, all of the main things, we're getting out close to 2 years. There's been 3.01 million people die. Even with the open, wider definitions, 3.01 million in this 2-year period, open, wide definition of death caused by COVID due to the World Health Organization's expansion of the definition. So that, I mean, not even everybody had to have a positive PCR test to be included as they were considered dead from COVID. They didn't have to be a positive active infection, is what I'm enlightening you with, if you haven't heard that, is that in the same amount of time, close to 4 million people have died. So 2.8 million people died every year from obesity. So sorry, my math is wrong. So we're talking 5.6 million people have died from something that happens every single year and is increasing by the percentages. From the 1999, it was like right around 30% of people were considered obese. Now it's like 42% of people are considered obese. So it's growing. It's a growing problem, and it's happening every year consecutively. But they would let obese people on the cruise ship if they were evacuating them from a volcano. They might even wheel them in first because they were help them on. They were having a hard time getting there. But the people who are whether you believe in your natural immunity or you believe in the vaccine, either way, I think we all have a right to life. And we all have the same priority, especially in an imminent threat. Just thought, getting back to survivability. So look at the time that we have. So it's not really a miracle when the body heals. It's the way things are supposed to happen. Just depends on who you're talking to. And that's why, again, in Max Living, we expect the miracle because we provide the template of living through the 5 essentials. And the question becomes, it's not a miracle when people heal. It's a miracle that they hear that they are possible of healing. The miracle is that we would get the word and the expectation out that there is a place in which healing happens regularly. And that if you want more of it, you should go there and participate in that template. And that template is the 5 essentials of Max Living, where we help the whole person with their mindset, their nutrition, their exercise, their toxicity, and their nervous system, which controls all the rest of it. And that we start a checklist of checking to see in all of those areas where there's the greatest need and provide the solution to that greatest need through removing the cause of interference to the expression of life, whether that interference is coming from the nutrition, the toxicity, the mindset, the stinking thinking, so to speak, or through their nervous system not being able to express the life force. So here's a great example. Again, heard this on the call today, loved it. I could go into the morgue and quote unquote adjust a dead person, of course, and I could adjust them and make the bones of the spine pop and loud noise. Everybody likes to hear the cracking noise and they think, ooh, great adjustment or whatever. But it has nothing to do with the noise. The noise would happen, everything, the manipulation, the movement of a bone would happen in the corpse. But would anything change? No, it's dead. What's absent? The life force, the life, the energy that flows from above, down, inside, out, and is controlled and coordinated through the brain and the nervous system. So I take the same person, a different person, the live person, give them the exact same adjustment if they needed it, if they were in the exact same alignment as that corpse, and we adjust that person, and it removes the interference of subluxation, and their life would forever be changed. Their life would express more fully. They would be better connected, and their body would heal and adapt and be supported in a better way. And so when we do those sorts of things, that's the first step. That's chiropractic, making the connection happen in the body. Then we remove the interference from the nutrition, and we remove the interference from toxicity. We don't do it, not I, the chiropractor, just like I don't give the adjustment necessarily. The adjustment happens when the person's body restores that bone back to its normal alignment, that only the brain and the body knows the exact millimeter of where it needs to be, and to reduce that nervous system interference. The chiropractor knows how to give the force that allows the body to use the leverage and that energy to restore the alignment, thus allowing life to flow better. But then we do have in our Max Living template the ability to quiz people and find out how's their nutrition and remove those nutritional toxicities or deficiencies. And then we then can do exercise and analysis. Again, remove the interference. Look at the mindset. Where's the stinking thinking? Are you handing down a legacy of disease and an expectation of degeneration? Or are you handing down a legacy of the miracle of thinking that is the miracle the body can heal? Which one are you aligned with? Let's see what this all right, I'll reply to that one too. I won't even follow this. But the miracle is that the people believe enough to invest in their own health to remove what's interfering with them. So is it stinking thinking, or is it an expectation of life and healing, and that God didn't make any junk, and that you were created to heal, and that when it doesn't happen, there must be a cause, the law of cause and effect. And if you remove the cause, you should expect the effect to be healing. In my family, that's what we expect. In my office, that's what we provide. And that's what Max Living is here for, is to provide that level of service and care. So let's see here. Text questions here. You can also text that number or call that number to make sure that you and everyone you know has an appointment or has another adjustment appointment or a new patient appointment or re-exam or whatever you need to get plugged into the Max Living to live to your max and expect, got 4 more minutes, that miracle. And so one of the miracles to me is that people are inspired enough, and I love it, and we have this regularly where people will, refer in a dozen people to the office because of when they learn this and understand how this principle works, the principle of health, that with less interference, the body's natural, innate, God-given response is to regenerate and heal. And when they learn how to remove interference to that and how to measure it, then the light bulb comes on and they understand that everyone that they care about, they want them in the office so that they can also experience that quality and quantity of life through real health care and providing care that actually does look to prevent disease through their introduction, not me preventing it as the chiropractor, but them preventing it through disease through their better lifestyle habits. And a lack of, it's an audacious, amazing affront to my intelligence and my reverence for Mother Nature. Some people call it, I just call it God created the world. So it's the universal laws that he set in place that we as man would make alterations to something that we have no true timely understanding of where that is going. And this, comes from a thought of my wife was telling me about how they're releasing genetically modified mosquitoes because we don't like mosquitoes. And in some areas, they're malaria and causing disease, but they're wanting to do it in Florida. And they're doing all of these modifications to animals that they don't know how that's going to affect the bats and the frogs and the toads. And we understand now, looking back, if we looked at history, DDT and how it affected the birds and how it made all these things happen and why it got banned so many years later. But we still see effects from DDT in the ecology today, even though it was banned in the 70s, I believe. So, I mean, come on, that's like 50 years later, here we are, or 50 years later, it's still having effects. And yet we're going to make changes to DNA and to animals and then release them out and in hopes that we're going to get it right this time. and how amazingly irreverent that is for this creation. And we're not understanding that really our mindset in man, in our, this is my opinion, and it is Health the Second Opinion, that our intelligence was here to learn how to live harmoniously and how to adapt with the world and not to exploit it for our own gain, but to live with it and thrive, but not to alter its perfection. I don't like mosquitoes, and I hate snakes, but I know they have a place. I don't know what that is, besides rodent control, and I don't know. Mosquitoes feed something, bats and things we talked about, but I don't like them. But I know they're part of the chain. They're a part of something I don't understand. And the people who are out here making changes to the world don't even have that amount of common sense. And that's unfortunate, because we're allowing them to make policy for the rest of us. So one of the things that I hope that you will glean from this conversation is an understanding of what you're doing. Are you walking in purpose? Are you acting from a thriving expectation of healing because you have a great handle and understanding on what actually causes the body to have dysfunction, and you're removing it, and you have a template to which you're enacting that allows you to feel confident in your results and to measure those results and to encourage positive change? Or are you not? And I hope that you are, and I hope to be a part of your life, your family's lives, and anyone else that we can influence to realize that you're worth the effort. The investment in your health is always going to reap magnificent rewards. And just like compound interest, the earlier you get started, the better off you are and the more gains you get in the end, so that we can all avoid less time with disease and dysfunction. But not even that. I don't want to leave you with just the avoidance of the negative. I'd rather leave you with the looking for things in expectation of pleasure, reward, more quality years doing the things you love with the people you love. That's what we're trying to do with Max Living, especially in my office. So if you want to be a part of that, text your questions or text new patient appointment wanted, and we'll get back with you and make sure that you get what you need. With love and respect, looking forward to see you next week. Be well.